All right, welcome back. This is the Grow Room, episode 12. Will Murphy make it? I'm with TJ. Hi, TJ. How you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Good, good. So how was your week? It was stressful in the markets. I'm a stock guy, equities guy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Usual. Just just focused on my Bitcoin, and
Good.
holidays came around, Easter and 420.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Actually, speaking of 420,
mhm,
I always wonder, does the CRC or does considering we're a cannabis state now, why do we
mhm.
not hear anything about New Jersey celebrating 420, or capitalizing on the name? I don't know. I haven't heard anything in the last 4 years.
That's interesting. Before I did, and I'm sure there was like sales.
Maybe, yeah,
Um,
sale increases. You're right. You're right.
I
They used to tout
no,
that.
no, I mean like discounts.
Oh, true, true. Okay, yeah.
Oh, wait, maybe not because it fell on Easter. Maybe because it fell on
Oh,
Easter this year.
oh,
Uh,
we do have to mention, rest in peace. The Pope died.
oh, yes, rest
Yeah.
in peace.
I heard he died on Easter. So that's what.
Yeah.
So that's what. Yeah. Well, you curiously enough, we're not saying anything. It was the day after he met JD Vance. He
Yeah,
JD met
I
JD
mean,
JD got to meet him before he passed.
yeah, it's
Thank
funny
God
because
he was able to get in a meeting.
a friend of mine brought up there like, oh, JD Vance's case killed the Pope, right?
Yeah, I figured someone
You
would
know,
say it, but I just wanted to make sure
yeah,
people knew that,
yeah. No, I
like
mean,
it was
like
a
the
day
Pope's been,
ahead of time. It was on Easter, basically the same
yeah,
day, whatever. But
yeah. I mean, the Pope is 88, and he's been in the hospital for a while,
yeah,
from what I heard.
rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
So yeah, I mean Easter's passed, and I think this is one of the times I saw a lot more people online and
Mhm.
out and about than usual. But yeah, nothing on the 420 bit. Unfortunately, last I feel like, yeah, the previous years you'd see something on 420, but this year nothing.
Yeah, I think it's just awkward timing on
Yeah,
what day it landed on.
yeah, yeah. So the CRC, they had their meeting April
Mhm,
3rd. Um,
mhm,
quite a lot happened, TJ. We watched that meeting, and
mhm,
now it started off a little boring, but it was very information packed. They brought on the NJBAC, New Jersey Business Action Center, and the NJEDA, the NJ Economic Development Authority, and basically these guys, they made the training and the grants that they're offering to people starting their businesses. Now, one thing that's very curious is, so they obviously the training they have, it's fully online, it's fully free,
yeah.
and as far as I know, people don't have to have some major requirements to start the training. I think you could just go on, register, and
No,
start the training.
it, no, it does have some interesting things about it. Yeah, you do. You can just sign up,
Yeah.
and there's like no wait time. It seems like it just accepts you. Though the whole course is not online yet.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think only like 30% of it's online right now,
That's that's
which
that's
is
something they
kind of
don't
sad.
they don't mention that though.
They
They
didn't mention
yeah, they
that
they
about the
they
online portion.
yeah.
Um, they and they it's also weird because it's like I think it has two real classes, maybe a third, um, and then the other one's just like like a intro class that's like 5 minutes long, and those were posted. It was like 8 months ago since the last time
Yeah.
they've posted anything on it. I
Interesting.
want to say. So they're kind of bragging about this online portion, but they didn't do it yet.
So yeah, I mean it's definitely got a long ways to go. And
Yeah.
at the very least, one there's a lot to be said about putting out the rest of the material and making sure that they, you know, keep putting out more material. It's another thing to effectively be talking about who's registering for this and what's the value, because they're talking about it. They're making a big portion of this meeting about it, and you'd think that it would be to the benefit, a major benefit, to complete these. Maybe finish the certification, finish these trainings, whatever. But I think what's important to remember here is that there's no, getting this training doesn't guarantee anything. Obviously the whole point is
Yeah.
by following it and doing
Well,
the steps that come after, right?
yeah,
Then you have a chance.
yeah. Yeah, so they do like when you're signing up, it does ask you what license you're going for if you want help applying and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, like obviously, like I did as much as I could on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
so I still, I gotta wait for the other because in in the in the CRC meeting they claimed that it was gonna be 9 sections. Um, so. Waiting for the other 9 to see, what the end result is like if, it opens up any windows.
So that's interesting because so the way I'm looking at it is there's two types of people here. There's people who just want
Mm,
training. They want to learn about cannabis. They want to learn about the
mm,
industry. They want to learn about this, maybe potentially getting a job, potentially starting a business. And then there's the people who are serious about starting a business, who are like, I'm just ready to start. And
yeah.
what it seems here is the NJEDA, the New Jersey, what was it, Economic Development Authority, right?
Mm,
NJEDA. So they have the grants. They had the 20 million in grants, and they basically set up two different types. One is for businesses that have site control, they have municipal approval, and basically they're just like, from there, what's next? Then there's the grants for like the seed stuff, for like the early guys, for the people who don't have site control. Now, what's interesting is for that one, they
mm,
partnered with a university, I forget which one, but for like a 9 week hybrid entrepreneurship training program. And basically, they've given out 48 seed equity grants of $150,000 to out of like maybe 110 different applicants. So
mm,
nearly 50% of them got it. And to my understanding, just finishing the same training program, the 9 week training program that allowed these guys, like half of your class, to get grants, I think does have a lot more value than the free training. You know, the
yeah.
the one that effectively you don't know if you'll get anything necessarily. Very interesting. It seems like the path to getting a license seriously right now is through the grant section, through the $150,000, through this potentially this training program. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think maybe the other the online training is mainly for people trying to get a job, maybe, or what do you?
So I think it's for going through the application for
Okay,
sure. Um, Now the effectiveness of it, I don't know.
yeah,
Um, because it could just be, it puts you on another waiting list, just like, the people who applied, right? It just puts you in the same position.
yeah,
Because like I wouldn't understand how getting this would lead to like say if your issue is getting a property, right? Like
yeah,
it effectively doesn't really change that, and that's a major issue many of the people who are applying for license is facing. So like I don't know. Part of me is maybe it gives you favor when it comes to passing,
oh,
like getting approved. Like, it's like adding things to your resume,
it's a
right? You know,
certification technically, right?
yeah,
Like, right,
essentially, yeah. um, which that would be the major or potentially really like only thing I could see as a benefit, other than potentially as I go through this, maybe it teaches me how they want something done specifically, right? And
But
that
let's take a step back here.
mhm,
If we're a cultivator, or if you're trying to become a cultivator, a business,
mhm.
does it help you towards that? Does it teach you?
So,
Can
oh,
it?
like,
Does it help
does
you
it teach you
predict?
cultivation?
More two things. One is cultivation. The other is sales, or even to the point of like managing the inventory to demand. So supply and demand.
Mhm.
Like to me,
Uh,
I would think that that's such a huge portion. I'd wonder if these businesses talk more like, actually, maybe I'm skipping over. Do they address the growing? I just assumed they touched on growing, but maybe
nah,
not.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
It's more about like the application process, and like safety regulations.
Right.
It's like handling the like kind of and not really the bureaucracy of it, but like the more so the like just like standard protocol, I guess.
It seems.
So far.
I mean, I just wonder why call it a training program if it doesn't train you in the ways that we expected. So like when I hear a cannabis training program, you know how amazing that sounds, and then to find out there's no teaching me how to grow. There's no teaching me about the cultivation business. There's no teaching me about, you know what I'm saying? Like to the idea of, okay, you're trying to get me a license. Great, I'm with you. But let's call that a, something, let's not call it the cannabis training, right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
little bit
It
of
it
a misnomer.
yeah. It seems like it's more so on like the legal side of how to get into the cannabis market.
And
Um.
if you had to place your bets, this grant program that requires you to go through this university, this hybrid
Mhm,
entrepreneurship training program held by this university, that they
mhm,
did give nearly 50% grants to, who passed, and 100% pass rate apparently.
mhm.
How much you want to bet on whether they have growing training or this supply and
Wait,
demand cost analysis
so like
budgeting
I said,
training?
the full thing's not online, so it's hard
But
to
this
know.
one's not that, right? This one's the university. This one's
Oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
right.
It is the same university.
Oh,
Apparently, if I'd imagine, or at least what I thought was the situation is that they have the university in a physical location, um, and those are the people they're talking about passing. I don't think anyone's passed the online portion. There is a chance also because like I said, it does, and I'll check it later. But maybe the type of license might have determine what like classes are in your set.
oh, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so maybe they're not done with the cultivation one, but they're done with others. I'll check that later to see. But yeah, at least from what I could pick up so far, um, it 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 didn't seem, and I don't think I saw anything. r- Do you remember reading anything about like physical training?
So
I
again,
don't remember.
so to me, the fact that there's now
Mhm,
two separate ways for people to go about thinking about training. One is,
mhm,
I just want to learn about the regulations, the industry, which is this online free training. And then
mhm,
there's the NJEDA that has these grant programs. And one of them is to get this $150,000 seed grant, you have to go through the university, pass this 9-week program, and effectively, I don't know, maybe it's a paid program. Maybe you have to pay to get into the university. Maybe it's not. I don't. Maybe you have to just
I'd imagine
submit
if you're
your.
getting a grant, it's
Probably
probably
not.
paid.
Yeah, I mean, probably
Yeah.
just submitting enough of a proving that you're a business, you're serious, and that you're taking it further. But yeah, I mean, assuming that that entrepreneurship program has something of value, to me, the question really is, like you said, if I chose cultivator, I know what I want to do. Can they, if they can't teach it, can they point me to all the people that I need to go to get what I need? And that's important, right? Even if they can't point me to it, can they get me to a point where I can then get myself to that point, right? It really is a matter of, if I don't have the ability to do like supply and demand accounting, budgeting, right? Where do I get that expertise? And if if I don't have it, someone's gonna have to help me find it, and I'll have to, through networking and building a team, building. I mean, that's a big part of this is probably they should already have a lot of this, but when you think about, like, hey, a bunch of people who haven't done cultivation starting a cultivation business, the reality is you're gonna find many problems, and even one problem can kill your business. And the better you have a setup that is advised, from the get-go, the longer your business will run. So I mean, just I'm thinking like the C fee, right? It raises, it doubles. 5 years from now, it's $10-15, right? Like to the normal
Oh, didn't
person.
we? Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying that it goes up because it
Mhm.
can arbitrarily go up, and prices, they don't care right now.
Yeah.
And the point is, on the worst case, it goes up, things change in your business. A lot of businesses, without the right change management, the right change, they actually
Mhm.
just don't know how to handle the increase in C feed prices. They don't know how to handle
Yeah.
the economic or the market change. Even if they're not cultivation, the C fee affects a bunch of different businesses, and that change, right? I don't know if, like, I doubt that this is something that they focus on, but I would think that it's important for any of these businesses that are coming into the market to know that whatever the training they've done is not enough, right? You're gonna be constantly up against challenges in this industry. They're always gonna be throwing new shit at you every single
Yeah.
day.
I mean, it's been 4 years, and they're still like constantly changing rules. I mean, we heard about some lives that
Oh my god,
got
it was heart wrenching. Let's talk
devastated
about that for a
by.
second. So okay. So finish the meeting. We get to the public comments, and first things first. We I think the very first person to come up was, again, we our old good old, passionate speech about hemp products, being in the state.
Yeah.
How our lovely CRC is not doing enough to stop the sales.
Mhm.
And again, we definitely, have some thoughts, but I don't think we I don't want to speak for you, TJ, but I don't think I completely agree with the guy's, conclusion that the CRC should be the one to do it. But I do agree with the sentiment that it definitely is competition, and it is unregulated while our market is regulated. And to that degree, competition, yeah, it does suck to be on the regulated side.
Yeah, it is a little bit unfair, especially like it's one thing if it was a situation where um I think right now they don't have to specifically label whether they're mixing the products with, hemp-based products.
Oh wow.
Um
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not 100% on that, to be honest, but I want to say
Because
I remember
there
the
were some
man
complaints.
complaining about that. Yeah.
Right. I think, right. So the complaint there was that,
That
specifically,
that
that they wanted, and that they know that they were mixing them, but they weren't labeling it, right. Yeah.
yeah. And so, it's it changes, the THC composition, and they, um, you know, can kind of fudge numbers and make their
Yeah.
plants seem more impressive than they are.
But once again, I think we can both agree that if this
Mhm.
is, you know, a crime, like he's claiming it's against this law, it's against these regulations, it's against XYZ, effectively you report that to
Yeah,
the law enforcement or the right people. That, and it's clear to me that the CRC isn't the right people. But that, again, this is just me. Someone's gonna speak up on this eventually, or maybe the scab
mhm.
will keep going on about it. I don't know, but I actually I want to see this addressed. I just don't. I clearly don't see this being the place to do it. Um,
I, I mean,
it's good
yeah,
that he's being heard though.
realistically, it's on Murphy because he put the hemp ban and started this whole
Yeah,
nonsense. Because CRC doesn't have any jurisdiction over hemp. At least as of right now, maybe that changes in the future. But there's really not like I don't see a point for him to come here and complain. Not that like his complaints aren't valid or anything. It's just you're talking to a wall at this point. They can't do anything about it.
yeah. And I think it's also clear he's been like this issue has been brought up quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The past like three since the
yeah,
ban,
yeah. I
every C meeting since the ban,
I think it's
they brought it
important
up.
for people to know that if after a certain number of times they haven't addressed it, made any change, I would, in my mind, I would consider it a
I'd
dead
assume it's a
issue.
dead cause. Yeah,
Right. And now the question is, what's the next best move? And I think it's to move on without them, right? And to then,
yeah.
when you have a changed board, a new layout, then you approach them again, and they're gonna have to deal with that new board, right? So if you take action, you go to the right law enforcement, you take it to the right steps, they're gonna contact the CRC if it is the right thing to do. It's just a matter of what's the next thing to do. I'm hopeful on this because I think what this leads to is better
Mhm.
competition. Personally, I think
Yeah.
I think the stores, or the not the stores, the retail that do actually sell cannabis en masse, I think they all need two things. One, so a fire lit under their ass, which is
Mhm.
effectively to say we need more product in the market, and then two, I do want to see this hemp thing resolved. Like there's obviously a place for these products in the market.
Yeah.
There's no way you can tell me that you can't get cannabis product to be as good or as cheap or as well available as this. You can. Now it's just a matter of will you let it happen?
Now, are you worried that, right now, because hemp's not under all these regulations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a lot, contributing to why it's so much cheaper
Yeah.
than regular cannabis. Do you think if, hemp goes in, it basically evens out the price and then, they, because essentially, biologically, they're pretty much the same plant.
Well, you
Um,
have to think. One, does it increase the price for the hemp products, or does it decrease the price for our cannabis products?
And um,
Because again,
I'd
competition,
like it to decrease,
right?
but I feel like
But say
then
forget what
people
we
are going
like.
to start being like, okay, this is my bougie hemp, and they jack up the prices.
I mean, but that's the point, right? So it is
Hmm.
about market demand. If
Yeah.
here's the reality. If the plants are so similar to the
Hmm.
point where we are able to now say, hey, look, there's this one plant that is this much, this price, this much packed into this price, and people are
Hmm.
going for it. Can we not do the same with the other plant and then beat that amount of product for that price? And as regulation, effectively, the ideal situation here would be regulation comes down to meet that
Hmm.
product demand. Because if it's to say people are saying screw the weed, we're going for the hemp because we get more more
Right.
grams, we get less cost. Then the reality is the regulatory committees should look at that and say, wow, we've made a mistake.
Mhm.
We've clearly strangled the market, whether it's from edibles all the way to the amount that people can smoke to whatever the case. I don't care. They need to take a
Mhm.
look at why their industry is losing to a legal industry elsewhere. And what I'm assuming here, the cause that matters most is if the plants are so similar, then you
Mhm.
should be able to bring the cost back down or let the market decide. And if that's the case, instead of the other way where they force regulation onto the hemp products and therefore increase the price of hemp products, right? So it's these two situations here.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily think one's more likely than the other.
I, yeah, and that's my fear because like right now we're in a situation where like all this stuff about hemp product is only hurting New Jersey hemp
Yeah,
businesses.
very true.
So
There's
it's
something to
like
be said about this because we were all talking about this. This is about the hemp product from outside New Jersey. We were talking about the outside New Jersey product being coming into New Jersey. The moment we
Mhm.
talk about that, we actually were neglecting to talk about the New Jersey hemp growers, and that's exactly right. Yeah.
so like it's pretty crazy to just like see all these businesses because again they're showing up to every meeting. They're it's kind of not funny, but it's ironic that they basically are saying the same things that like the New Jersey cannabis cultivators have been saying.
Yeah.
It's just we're seeing it in a different part of the industry.
And I think there's another thing that was brought up, which is I forget because this happened multiple times where this guy came up and then right after I think his boss came up. I don't know if this is the same
Oh,
situation,
oh, that guy, yeah, yeah.
but effectively the next guy came up and he mentioned specifically the things extracted from the hemp product, the CBD extracted, unlawful use of
Mhm.
CBD
Yeah.
derived from hemp in cannabis infused products. And
Hmm.
basically, he was saying that this should be illegal because the hemp is not cannabis. And so it's like, now this is another thing. I think, again, not an expert, and maybe you can weigh in on this because you can see this issue more clearly. I think this is something that should be fine. I think as long as like there's not like a health risk,
Hmm.
let let the company do what they want. Why should
Yeah.
this be illegal?
Yeah, personally, I don't see any issue with it. Because it's just a way to diversify your product, right? Make it
And
stand out a little bit more
say
than someone
say
else's.
say we talked about like maybe there were some things, some
Hmm.
chemicals, maybe some THCs that you weren't allowing this to do. You weren't okay.
Hmm.
Maybe there's something in hemp that we just don't want.
Yeah.
Name those, right? Otherwise, to me, it's like saying it's like you're casting a broad net, as to say everything from what you can and can't have that's like safe, legal, uh, non-invasive, that's regulated, like all like CBDs, and not just CBD, but effectively anything I imagine that you can get that's organic, that's you know that fits well with your product. You should be allowed to do. I don't know. I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something that it's that I understand him bringing it up because it's something to bring up.
Yeah.
But
But not the place.
yeah, no. He was talking about I want to I forget how he phrased it, but he was saying something about the farmers um having to lobby for their rights, and he warned of like basically like he would take further action if the issue wasn't addressed. So I mean, let's see. Um,
Yeah. Honestly, it'd be kind of interesting to see. what kind of case he brings against them.
I mean, just
When the time
imagine
comes.
imagine the companies had to switch from getting hemp from outside New Jersey to inside New Jersey and getting their CBD from that hemp. I 100% agree. They
Yeah,
would,
that's fine.
yeah, they would, the profit would go to our New Jersey growers. But just on that alone, it's again, it's like, I get it, but at the same time, if you look at just the argument, you know, is it
Yeah,
is it lawful to use CBD from, hemp in cannabis? That has nothing to do with out of state. So
yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't know. I understand who it's hurting. I do. Um, Now I think we've brought up Murphy quite a bit. I think it's important to mention. I believe he is officially under investigation by the Fed. You brought this to my attention. He actually. So the story goes like this. Okay. Apparently the feds are trying to crack down on immigration, and Trump and the administration made it very clear that that's what they're doing, and they have no two ways about it. They made that call, and then now the AGs are coming down trying to crack down. Apparently, one of the things that happened was some resistance of some kind. I could not find for the life of me the kind of resistance, but to the degree that the feds are basically saying, Murphy put out a directive that the law enforcement is following, basically saying that they're not going to arrest people based off of their immigration status, and they're not going to report it to ICE. And it's hard to like detail exactly all of the ways that's being interpreted, but basically the feds are saying that they've tried getting these illegal immigrants, or these people, these bad guys, who, according to whoever they're trying to get, and they've met some resistance from law enforcement. Now, again, I don't know what kind of resistance. Do you mean they didn't help you, or do you mean they actively got in your way? Do you mean that they just didn't
Yeah.
follow federal regulations? And so the Fed is saying, listen,
Mhm.
listen, guys, we are the law. We're telling you there's a crime, there's an illegal person, and we need you, your state law enforcement, to help the federal law enforcement, which is this. There's this. I don't know if it's unspoken, but it's an official rule that basically says that they do have to help in some capacity, as like they have to follow the federal government's lead on certain things, and
Yeah.
it's now the question is, did they actively do something that broke federal law? Did the New Jersey governor for the directive? If not, did the whole police, law enforcement, break federal law by not complying with orders? Right? And so
Yeah.
so now he's under
Mhm.
investigation.
Yeah.
This
It's
is a week ago.
actually, and I guess it's still they're probably withholding information until you know they get something on them.
Oh, for sure.
But it's kind of crazy because he did just do that crazy C fee increase.
Oh my God, we
Uh,
need to talk about that too. But let's finish
uh,
let's finish this for a second, because I think
okay, yeah,
this is
sorry.
something that's
Uh,
important, because his term is supposed to end in
mhm,
2026. We know that.
yeah,
This was
yeah,
decided beforehand. Now, what's crucial is that he pushed the budget in February, the budget for New Jersey that's to be approved, and I think his official version of the budget is passed through, and I think maybe it's the final step done, if not maybe one final vote, but
mhm,
it's out of his hands. And what that means is he's done. He I don't want to say he did his damage, but he finished. And
yeah,
I think now he may have wanted to do a lot more. He did a great deal, and he may have wanted to do a lot more, but he's done. And now the question is, with everything, like the moment last week, the moment that happened, I thought to myself, this man is a cornered rat. He is now in a position where the Fed is bearing down on him, basically saying, "Listen, TikTok, we're coming after you with everything we've got. Trump is on our side, and he's got our back." And then just looming anyway in the span of like 8 to 10 months is his retirement anyway, in March or whatever, sometime in 2026. And I think we're going to see potentially more radical addressing towards these upcoming votes, upcoming issues, than possibly that we've seen before from Murphy. I don't know what you were thinking about Murphy, how active he was before. I would say he's kind of
Funny.
passive.
Oh, funny enough. He sent out a text today.
Oh, what did he say?
Give me 1 second. Where's my phone?
For
Here it
anyone who
is.
doesn't know, TJ and Murphy, they have an ongoing conversation. They're very close. As far as I know,
There.
it's a very
He,
intimate
he
conversation.
replied, breaking. Today we are announcing 927 million in medical relief for 629,000 New Jerseyans in partnership with undue medical debt. Across 4 rounds of relief, we have eliminated 1.1 billion in medical debt over for over 776,000 residents. Wait a minute.
So basically, they paid the insurance companies, right? They just paid
Right.
billions of
Yeah.
dollars to insurance companies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow they
But
broke out that debt.
but this was a clever response. Hey, listen, you can't go through with this fee. If I understand anything about supply chains, putting that fee on cultivators and that high is going to kill the industry and turn farmers into slaves. Please reconsider. Don't let your greed win this time. Very. And then when he sent that text today, immediately I said, "Hey, can you answer me?" I still, Murphy. He plays hard to get. Um.
That's Murphy for you, with the breaking news on the casual update too.
Yeah.
So I mean, so again, we talk about this often. How something a big decision can often crush. I So here's the way I'm looking at it is like this. So he posed a $15 C fee, an
Yeah.
update from the 250 to
Can you?
$15.
Yeah.
It's
That's what
absurd,
it. Yeah. Was that almost like 8 times
insane,
the fee
insane.
instantly?
And to expect that there'd be no backlash, right? So
Backlash.
the way he did it, right, is so all also okay. So CFE is what it is. They have their vote. The CRC has their vote. It gets updated. It's now 250. Great. Time flies. People are arguing. People are talking about it. People are still upset. They're voicing their opinions, and weeks go by, and then suddenly, what happens is in the budget report, everything gets sent to Murphy. Murphy looks it over, and basically he comes out with his own revision, his own recommendations, his own report. And in his address, he basically said, "I want the C fee $15."
Okay.
And one, tone deaf, right? Like two,
Uh,
two, no one's talking about the cultivators. Like it's like everyone's ignoring.
yeah.
It's like it's not a
You,
blind
you
spot
know
at
what's
this point.
crazy? You know
They're
what's
trying to
crazy?
kill them.
You know what's crazy? I don't think the cultivators know.
You know what? I believe you. I
Because
believe you.
I know a few people who work in there. And I mean, maybe the business owners know, right? I know employees. But the three that I talk to that work at like local farms around me, like small local farms, they didn't, they didn't know about the thing, and because like I was like, yeah, protesting the C fee, and he's like, "Thanks for looking out for us guys." Blah, blah.
I
But yeah,
I
I don't think a
cannot
lot of
tell
them
you.
know. I think they're gonna be blindsided by this.
I cannot tell you how many companies will crush themselves under just
Yeah,
the change in
yeah,
management, cost of product, economic changes that will happen.
yeah,
Like change management is a real thing. Like it's just this idea that you have to now your business is a growing and working animal, and if one thing goes wrong and you don't address it, it
it's
becomes,
over.
yeah, it kills you. And just for example, we'll make a very simple example, right? Product
Mm.
prices go up. Now your product in your inventory versus product that you have to buy. Now you have to start overpricing before people start pricing their products because you don't know the price. You're the first ones. People haven't started growing with the new C fee, but you have product in your inventory. Ta-da! First problem. You have to start overpricing from the early prices because you know the prices are going to start increasing. So you have to start increasing your price ahead of time, and you have to now start saying, okay, is that going to affect my bottom line, or do I just sell it all immediately? The moment someone makes the wrong decision,
Hey, it's over.
you're either
GG.
not selling your product or you've lost half your profits.
Yeah,
Because like the sale of it, the cost of everything, like you have so many costs, and then whatever higher you can sell it, you need to,
yeah,
because not only are the cost of everything else going to go up for you, but just know your margins are thin in all of these classes, which means if you are able to get that profit, you should be going for that profit. But now here's the problem. Prices are going to increase. Say this $15 C fee happens. The real
mm,
problem to me is that cultivators have to massively increase the cost of their product to remain profitable. And I just wonder, does that mean those businesses go out of business?
oh,
Because
most certainly. This is gonna. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be winners and losers, right? Some people are going to,
and we
make
all
the
knew
right
that.
call.
We all knew that
Yeah,
going into this.
but I definitely think this is gonna eliminate a lot of people who elsewise would not have been eliminated.
I think the people who were going into this on their own, thinking that they could do it all on their own, I think they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah.
Because I think right now, more than anything, you need to be able to get to people who can handle these changes in conditions. And, on your own, we aren't even getting a license. And even we are having a tough time not, being surprised every time something comes up that's like, holy shit. Like these grants, right? These grants that the NJEDA have. I was actually surprised to find out how successful they are, and the fact that that they were even opened and starting and taking in
Mhm.
people, getting people to the next level, and people were passing and getting these grants. I didn't know that. To me,
Yeah.
this was fresh news. It's almost like they kept it hidden, wink wink. It's almost like it was kept for certain people, wink. I don't know. My point is, it's surprising, and I think that there's something to be said about that. Either way, I think back to Murphy. I think his limited time here, I think that does cause a catalyst in how he's going to act. I do think there's going to be some change in how he addresses things from now on. But that being said, there is an investigation open into Murphy now. We will see.
Yeah, we'll see if anything he's done's been swept under the rug. It's gonna be kind of interesting if this Cause for a while now, Murphy and me, we haven't been on good terms. I haven't been happy with a lot of his decisions. So it is kind of like vindicating to kind of see him under the hot seat. And hopefully, it uncovers more about Murphy and what he's been up to.
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely something that he is gonna have to start talking about. But maybe if he stays silent, things he can just like not do anything. But
That
I
too.
expect things from him.
It's weird, it's been a couple days since, the investigation began. I don't think I've heard any response from Murphy.
Right. Yeah.
Have you
No.
heard anything?
And
No? Like,
I've been looking for it.
yeah,
Um, so
I,
it's been a week, but also
mhm,
you think potentially it's because he's preparing, potentially preparing for a response, or maybe he's just, making sure keep his first move is the right move. But at the same time, it's like you should have said something.
yeah, it almost feels like he's like trying to, cause it's weird, cause like, I don't know if people are really talking about it, right? Like,
Well, there
I,
is talk, right? So there is
yeah,
talk from Murphy's side about like what it is the reason why the law enforcement is doing what they're
mhm,
doing, and the base reason is that basically like they're trying to like uphold their New Jersey law and then human rights, and we're doing everything fine by the law, and obviously we're not breaking any laws, and again it's like he said she said about where did you break the law, and again is if that's where they're leaving it, fine, but the investigation's still happening, and there's definitely merit because they keep coming on TV saying it's happening.
yeah, um, I don't know. And it's weird. No one. I mean, at least like the public people, they don't seem like even like concerned with it in any regard. Like I know
They
right
wanted
now,
Murphy out.
and anytime Trump does something, every customer has to say something to me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, but like, no, besides one the customer that brought it up to me, that actually like brought it to my attention, um, they're the only person, and I don't know. It feels like no one cares what's going on with Murphy.
That's what I get. I get this like 80-20 of 80 we don't know him, don't care, we don't actually put thought to him, and 20 is we just kind of don't like him because some of the
Yeah,
things we've heard from him, but we also kind of do like him because sometimes he supports some things like cannabis. You know,
yeah,
it's
and
a we don't know where his cards are. We don't know where his like real allegiances lie, but he said some
mm,
good things about supporting cannabis, some other things here and there, but he's also said some things we don't like. Big one, the safety. um
yeah,
yeah, it's so I mean again we don't think Murphy's the kind of guy who's gonna do anything crazy, but I personally think if people don't, like you said, if people don't talk about the cultivators being killed, um, you know, we've lost the point of helping out small business.
yeah. Which was Murphy's like 50% of his platform.
And dare I say, it's very heavily leaning towards certain demographics that will be hurt the most. It's very very close to the black, Latino, the impoverished, the social justice, the people affected by arrests related to cannabis in the past. Those people, like
Hmm.
it's heavily targeting those people who will be affected the most by the change in the CFE so drastically. So I mean, again,
Uh,
I want them to remember that. You know, we should be talking about that more.
yeah. I think I don't know. It seems like with all drama going on, Americans are like they're just like tired of it. They're tired of every day being an event, so they can
Yeah,
only care about like the big ones now.
for sure. Now, I think you know, we've touched on this a bit, but I think it's important we bring it up at this point. You know,
Mhm,
so two people in the public comments came up to share their, you know, their situation, their stories.
mhm,
One of them is basically a I think he's a social equity micro business applicant.
yeah,
Now, again, with social equity, all of the people involved in the social equity, in the social justice, the there was another the minority, in all of these communities. The way I'm looking at them is the people who are affected the most social economically. These guys are basically, they need the support that's like, you can't just go out and get it on your own. That's the way I'm looking at it. It all kind of boils down to that. And here's an applicant who received conditional licenses for cultivation and manufacturing, and basically he put in the work, right? He put in the work, he found the location, he raised $3 million from 20 some investors, and
yeah.
he did get CRC approval.
Mhm.
And then I believe in his case, or maybe in both cases, so in his case, or one of the cases, basically now you know, a year later, time has passed, they've
I
done
think it
the
was 2 years.
2 years,
Yeah,
time has
I think it was.
passed, they've
Mhm.
been setting up, they've been getting everything ready, they're getting ready to launch 2 weeks before a final inspection. 2 weeks. The CRC informs him
No, 2 weeks before opening.
2 weeks before
I'm pretty
opening.
sure. I think it
GG.
was opening.
GG.
Um,
Click, clack, boom. They informed him that he needed to vacate one of his licenses due to a change in interpretation. Now, that part, we'll get to that part, but they basically said, despite the prior approvals and and despite the $3 million invested, all gone, I imagine. He you know, so he's basically, he all he can do to finish that off was basically ask the question, um you know, why, and why should he be penalized, especially after he received the approvals, and you know, when everything's at the final stages, and when there are other businesses that are operating in the way he would have. And it's
oh,
heartbreaking, you know.
let me just interject real quick.
Yeah,
This change only affects micro
yeah,
businesses.
yeah. And that's another thing. Let's talk about putting the thumb down on small business harder. You know, it's and let's, okay. So first, heartbreaking, but let's talk about that change in interpretation.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I haven't seen what it is that change in interpretation is, but what is being said here to these guys, and these guys are appealing it. They're gonna do their work, and I imagine in this next meeting we're about to find out. But
Mhm.
basically, they're saying that sometime overnight, some interpretation in the regulation, the law, the CRC's something, what was voted on, it was basically determined that they couldn't have more than one license. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you can now go back and take away the licenses for the
You,
people
you
who
you wanna know what's
gave it to.
funny?
What?
You wanna know what's funny? I'm pretty sure they did this before.
What?
Um, because I remember when we were going to apply that they made a rule that you couldn't go vertical anymore, and then they reopened vertical at some point, which I don't even remember when
Oh,
they reopened vertical, and then they took it away again.
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, so
definitely fact check me, but I'm pretty sure I recall that.
we've talked about this so many times, TJ, that
Mhm.
if you want to be able to successfully navigate this fee, these crazy arbitrary decisions that these guys are making, the quickness of how they're just changing the industry with a vote. If you want to be able to deal with that, you kind of have to go vertical. And
Yeah.
if you don't, you're kind of just at the whims of these guys.
Whatever change it's
Yeah.
gonna be in a month,
And truly,
which
they
yeah.
limited the number of people required for it to be a quorum. I think they brought it down to three
Yeah, oh, they
people.
brought it down to three. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The
Less people need
minimum
to
number
agree,
for a
which
majority,
which
they
is
brought it down to.
crazy to me because they've almost made some crazy decisions that were
Yeah.
only
They
saved
were
by
bouncing
one vote.
around like $10 or $15 the C fee original time, you
It's
know.
it's kind of interesting the timing of that too when you think about it, because they did just bring on new members, and that
So
new
true.
member did have
An allegiance with another company
yeah,
that they did have a
yeah,
vote on.
conflict of interest.
And it's not,
Um,
maybe it's a blessing to us, but maybe it's also like hey, listen, like so one, they brought on someone new, great. Two, we got to see it live and in action, them stepping out and not being involved in the vote, great. However however I think most people don't know, and they'll never remember or put priority to that fact, that these people do have allegiances in their votes. And these votes, whether they make them for one company or not, affect the people that they have allegiances to. And to ignore that, I mean, it's just you're blindfolded. And I know for a
yeah,
fact that a lot of these people, right, when they vote, they do take into account how the lives of these friends and family are affected. It's just a matter of, can they deal with it in a way that is fine in the public eye. And that's what happens when you give people absolute power with no transparency. There's no,
check.
like, imagine you were to have these guys put out a full written report for every vote, every decision of every vote, like a detailed reasoning and backing for every comment made behind every vote, or every issue that they brought up and the vote that they gave for that issue. To me, that would be basically to say, tell us the exact reasons where, when, how, and why, and then we'll consider it, or then at least the public can do their due diligence into that. But the reality is, we're not even going to get that. What we're going to get is just a bouncing of votes, followed by, you bring the hammer down, and that's the new
It
law.
it is, yeah, it is very much just hey, I say what it goes. Dance for me, please. Um,
And we've seen
it
people get frustrated with this. The people coming up to the comments, like, we all see
oh
how
every
we're being
every
treated.
yeah, every month a new face brings their story on how they are basically done. They like their entire life is over and they gotta start over.
I almost have this feeling that they are doing this in a strategic manner to phase out the people who have been here long enough, and to bring in a whole new fresh set of faces, right? Like they did that
Mm,
with Jeff. Now I think they're gonna do it with one or two of the
yeah.
old staff. It's I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
we're jumping
because
on that, but
I
who
think
knows?
one of them is leaving soon. I'm pretty sure.
Right? Yeah.
I forget her name. I think it's the main talker now.
Miss Hoyne.
Uh, is that her name? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, and so like we on the second person that shared the same story is Nicholas, the guy who brought up who invested $3 million for of investors' money. So Daniel is the
Wait,
second
no, no,
guy.
no. What wasn't the guy with the investors like 20 million, and then it was
No,
like
no, no, no.
no, no.
20 people,
I
20 different
20
investors for
investors,
three
20
million
investors.
dollars.
That's what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. And Daniel,
I could have sworn
unfortunately,
it was more.
so he put in hundreds of
Mhm.
thousands of dollars of his own
Yeah,
money
yeah.
3
His whole life
years.
savings.
Three
His whole.
years ago, he started this.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, he started this. And again, like this, like Nicholas, just recently, he's informed that unfortunately, because new interpretation of the law, he can't have both. He's got to vacate one. And one of the things that I think both of these guys have brought up and is incredibly important here is there are micro businesses today that are operating under this model of multiple licenses, and the CRC now has to make a decision. Can they shoot these businesses in the foot, or you know do they
Grandfather
do they
them
have to,
in.
yeah, do they have to shoot them, or do they have to grandfather them in? And that's it. And the reality is, shooting them is gonna be painful.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna see absolute tragedy, right? Whether it's those investors, whether it's just the guys running it, whether now will they survive? Possibly, probably, depending on if it's the industry, if they're strong, if they can weather it out, possibly.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. That is not the point.
Yeah. You just made them go through like 10 times more suffering for no reason.
I do want to know if the CRC has the ability to kind of overturn this, but assuming that's not the case, because it doesn't look like, well, maybe we'll see in the next meeting, but it doesn't look like that's what's being argued for here.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I think this idea of the, like you said, it being kind of here or there, and they've been kind of bouncing on this issue of whether vertical or not vertical is allowed, or multiple licenses or not multiple licenses allowed. I think they if they're gonna change it now, it has to be a primed event. It can't be an instantaneous here's your email. It has to be a, you know, 2 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, or next
Yeah,
set of applications. You know?
that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing. Normally, when you get one of these, hey, rules are changing, there's a window that you get for you know, getting this accomplished. It didn't seem, or at least I don't think he brought up like a window of when he, like, it seemed like it was just immediate. He had to start tearing it down
Yeah. And again, by email. Like
by email. And
the
he
greatest
did
way to
bring up
enforce it.
also, he did note that all his like agency workers, like the ones in charge of the inspections and stuff, that are supposedly working with the CRC, none of those agencies knew about that when they were
Exactly.
passing him.
Exactly. So another person that came up after these two, basically shared their sentiments, but she brought receipts. This was Shirley Patel. She was
Oh yes,
yeah,
the woman, she was spitting mad facts.
yeah. She
Mad
she
facts.
basically came in here and pretty much broke it down in quite detail and very well, because basically she started with basically the argument for why all this hullabaloo is happening, why they even received those emails, why this interpretation is being interpreted, broke that down and basically said, hey, look, it shouldn't even be this way. And then she went further into showing that there's contradictions in in the CRC's own interpretations of the regulations. Then she cited all of the facts of where she got this information from, and then she provided more information on like what, like basically based off of like where she believes it does permit, having multiple licenses. And then she was like, even pointing out to some places on the site where it's like, it even says this on your site. And we're all like, whoa.
Oh, that's right. It still said you could show vertical.
um,
Oh,
and,
wait.
yeah,
You,
she pointed to the acceptance of conversion fees and operational agreements for vertically integrated micro licenses. Like, basically, she's like, first, fix the inconsistencies. Second, honestly, honor the previous guidance. And I agree. I'm
yeah,
with her.
yeah. It's not only going to destroy these businesses, right? But like it's such like an unnecessary
Oh yeah.
thing to go back on. Like
Oh yeah.
what does this accomplish for anyone?
And by God, like, even if you take the dumbest argument, like, hey, it's too much risk, too much stuff for a micro business, we can't. Or like, hey, micro business is open for the smaller people. If we allow too many micro businesses with verticals, it'd be too many businesses. Like, yes and
Like,
no. You already did it.
mhm,
In which case,
yeah.
don't be like that now. But then also,
It,
like, huh?
it
Where's
doesn't
the
it also
argument? Too
yeah, it
many
also
businesses? What?
mhm, yeah, it also doesn't make sense because if you allow it for the main license, how is a micro going to practice
Exactly.
that scale, right? They have to learn so much on the fly to to go vertical afterwards that
We we
what are they gonna do?
we can't ignore that this heavily mostly affects the underprivileged businesses. We cannot ignore that. That effectively this would crush all of those businesses that are just these single people starting a business, that are these people who are, taking a huge risk, huge leap of faith. We can't ignore that. We also can't ignore that it's become almost a necessity for these cultivation companies to have more than cultivation as a micro business. We've talked about this multiple times, that it seems obvious from the outside looking in that you might not be able to be a standalone micro business cultivator with the CRC acting the way they are. And if that's the case, to deny specifically micro businesses the ability to go vertical, the ability to have multiple licenses, and then to basically say we still care about small business, we still care about social equity, we don't want to hurt those people's chances of getting a business in micro. And I'm like, wait a minute.
It's
Talking out one side of your mouth,
yeah.
saying something the other. Maybe.
And it will be interesting to see later on, like if this all goes through and we see things play out, what percentage and what demographic is going to be hit the hardest with this choice. Because
Yeah.
it's like they proudly boast about how many of these minorities and at minorities, black owned, all these different groups that
Yeah.
they prioritize with licenses, and then they rip that chance away from them, and basically all these people that you made this big huff that you were going to help, you basically destroyed their lives directly.
Yeah.
And it's it's crazy. It's crazy to me.
I want to say it's gotten to the point of Netflix documentary level for seeing what might happen to these guys.
I wish,
Um,
man.
not
We
even
can't even get the
not even the
news to cover
CRC,
us, right?
not even the CRC. Just some of these guys' individual businesses, like the
Mhm.
stories behind this.
Oh, maybe then. Yeah.
It's truly crazy to see what people will go through, the efforts, the lengths people will go through for their businesses, and then
Mhm.
for this shit to happen.
Yeah.
You know, we
No, like
we saw
it,
there's another thing, right? So like the Garden Society, they one of the things in the CRC meeting, in the meeting, basically one of the employees, started selling weed,
yeah,
and basically the company reported it. They're like, hey, stop that, and then they reported it to the CRC, reported this guy, and the company was charged $8,000, I think.
yeah,
And basically they had a penalty, and the I think they had to go through some other things as well, but effectively, you know, this guy was just selling some cannabis, and got caught, and
mm,
obviously the company tried to do their best, do the right thing, but unfortunately that's another 8,000 out of their pocket.
yeah,
If you're a cultivator and that shit happens to you, not gonna lie, you're done. You're a micro business, you're done. It's over for you. You you can't take $8,000 penalties here and there.
yeah. It's it's kind of crazy, and it's kind of sad in a way because it's like they came out, they did the right thing. They had no involvement. It wasn't like they had this kid or this. I say kid, but this guy.
Probably some
Um,
grown man.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
living by his choices. Yeah, no.
yeah. And so like you know because they hired this guy, gave him a chance, and they did the right thing afterwards. They get a pretty harsh penalty.
Yeah. We also hear the story about Curaleaf and how they're still going about denying, their workers some basic human rights. I don't know what it was. Something along the lines of like there's like massive layoffs, the hours cut, some union contract stuff, disruptive schedules, unfair scheduling practices, a bunch of things. It seems like he's arguing that Curaleaf is being incredibly malicious as far as the company's going at human resources. I don't know. I'm seeing so much here, and I don't even know if the CRC is able to handle any of it. Is that even that's happening? Like, yeah, that's a big company.
Yeah, it is tragic. Um, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I think Kelly's been in a few, um, been in the spotlight a few times
Yeah,
recently.
scandalous. these guys are
Um,
these guys are mentioned every
and
single every single
it
meeting.
doesn't seem like it's really slowing them anyway.
They're probably the most sold, and they're gonna get more complaints.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to see how this is gonna unfold.
It definitely is clear that the bigger companies are gonna have their way.
Yeah.
I have
Oh
no
yeah.
expectation for small cultivators.
They're going to. I mean, it's gonna hurt their profits for sure, but they're gonna be fine at the end. They
As long
may
as they
have some.
hold the market share, then
Yeah. Yeah.
profits
They'll be
short
fine.
term mean nothing. They take out loans in the short term. As far as long term, they secure the market share. That means they can do anything they want. They can jack up prices and make you fine with the jacked up prices. Ta-da! That's the market. Well, we've talked an hour and 15 minutes. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. We try and put this out as often as we can. The next meeting is what, the 1st of May, TJ? So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to discuss and see where we want to go with that. I think this time I do want to show up. I think we do need to maybe just reiterate, just maybe just once again tell them clearly, hey, the C fee specifically, it affects cultivators. Maybe just say that 5-10 times in a row.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll think about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next podcast. And hit that notification bell, leave a comment, tell us, will Murphy make it? You know, tell us what you think, and you know, have a great rest of April. Peace.
Peace.